I always think that I'm going to enjoy having a break from like these interviews and stuff during the summer, but the truth is I miss you guys. Hello and welcome back to the Metropolitan Culture Corner. I hope you had a wonderful summer. Maybe got to travel, see some new corner of the world, perhaps. I mentioned travel because this month I am pleased to welcome to the Metropolitan Culture Corner journalist and world traveler Alicia Escribano. Immersed in the world of radio and television since she was 17, Alicia has since developed an extensive career in various media outlets. She is known for hosting television and radio programs such as her long-running interview series Barcelonautes, among others. She has contributed to a number of programs ranging from news to game shows to political debates to cultural showcases and much more. Alicia is known not only for her reporting on the local scene but also for bringing stories from around the world to Barcelona. In fact, she was something of a travel influencer before there were even influencers. Through her blog Viajando con Alicia, which she started a decade ago, she documented her trips all over the world, narrating her travels in detail so that you felt like you were right there with her as she explored museums, monuments, local cuisine, top-tier hotels, and the great outdoors. As the tagline goes on her blog, you think you're going to make a journey, but it's the journey that makes you. And Alicia is the perfect example of how where we go in life shapes who we are and how opening ourselves up to new experiences can make that life so much richer. And as if international and local reporting weren't enough to fill her days, Alicia also combines her work in front of the camera with professional physical fitness coaching. She is a Renaissance woman and she is busy. So I'm very happy she made time for this interview with us. In fact, Alicia Escribano has interviewed me in the past in my capacity as a musician, so I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to return the favor. Please welcome Alicia Escribano to the Metropolitan Culture Corner. Welcome. We're both here like fixing notes. Thank you very much for being on the Metropolitan Culture Corner. So you are from Barcelona. You studied at the Universitat de Barcelona and started in the world of journalism when you were 17. Where was your first job, on the television or in the radio?
I started in my school, my high school. They say, hey, we are going to start a new radio for the students, a place where they can speak, talk, explain, something for entertainment. And the two teachers, they were working on radio, professional to journalists. And when I start to go to the classes, they say me, hey, you are good with your voice and you feel comfortable making voices. And usually in radio, men do this kind of work, making voices, but woman is difficult.
Have you done any kind of voice acting, like where you do characters and things?
Yeah, I'm not actress, but it was something like actress when you in radio start to do a character. For example, a Cuban woman. I'm a model, como tattoo, and for girls, it's not usual. The girls in radio want to be journalists, the radio presenter of the show, but not for this kind of shows for entertainment with voices.
So you were very unique at the time then.
Yeah, for me was fun, was different, but I discovered inside me there was something that was growing. And I say, probably I will be a journalist. I start to go to a professional radio school for do interviews, news, tours, different areas, DJ for radio stations, something like this, music. And then I discovered I really want to be a radio speaker.
So for you, was it more about communicating or about the fun of performing?
Like something fun. And I discovered that journalists, usually people go to the university, stay 6-7 years preparing, reading a lot of books, but the practice time, if you start younger, is better for you because when you finish the university, if you never use it only for example in the lessons of the university, it's a short time. You need to grow year by year. And if you finish the university and you have only the experience in the microphone of the university of your class, it's too short time. I start to do radio like a professional 18, but from 16 I was playing, joking. Then I stayed 3 years in a radio school here in Barcelona.
Did you have someone in the world of radio that you feel like was your mentor or someone who really inspired you a lot as you were doing this?
I was lucky because I started to be very close to professional journalists with a lot of experience. And I was all time looking at what they are doing, the way they work, the respect, for example, for the people who they interview. I think it's important that people start to respect the profession, respect the people or the person you have in front of you when you make the interview. The mentor for me was all the team of Luis del Olmo. Luis del Olmo was a very famous radio presenter here in Spain, very famous and very important. Now she's not working, but I learned with him and all the team to do very professional radio. I was young with the sandwich all day looking what the great professionals were doing. I think it's very important if you start with these people, with very experienced people.
That already sounds like a fantastic start in this really kind of complicated world, but then you end up taking journalism on the road and traveling all over the world. So what drew you to that? Why was it important for you to share these stories with other people?
This is a good story. Today, all young people want to travel, feel the wanderlust, But it's today. 15, 20 years ago, I traveled to Japan, for example, and no one do this. Right. And alone. I traveled alone to Japan 20 years ago. Now it's very usual here in Spain, but it's only from 10 years ago, young people start to discover the world like an exercise for growth in all of this that you don't understand in the university or in school. Life. And more or less 20 years ago, with my first travel to Turkey, and then Japan, China, Thailand, Asia. I loved Asia. This was only for me, for my own decision, not for work. But later, when I changed the radio for the television, sometimes people say, hey, do you want to come to my country, to my city, and explain for television that this city is very interesting for tourist people from Barcelona? If you want, we prepare for you a travel. And now we have the influencers, TikTokers, traveling, explaining. But when I start with the TV show, only the travel journalists do this kind of travels. People from National Geographic, for example, no other TV channels. We were only 10, 15 journalists from newspapers, travel magazines, and now TikTokers, influencers, all people is traveling, making videos, explaining all you have to do, all you have to visit. But this was not very usual 20 years ago. And I started with my TV program in Barcelona.
Did you have to convince the people at the television to let you do these trips? Were the people at the TV station interested, or did you have to kind of sell them?
Because you, for example, are on the stage and you are enjoying. And people say, if you are enjoying, it's not work. In Spain, it's usual that people think that if you're traveling, this is a holiday. No, for you, it's holiday. For me, it's work.
Right.
And sometimes people not understand. I'm not traveling for enjoying all time. I have my tasks, check this, film, video, interviews, and I have a lot of work. For example, the first time I visited Cuba, I not swim on the beach because I was traveling in the island, making interviews, filming, taking pictures, and I have no time. People say, hey, you come from Cuba and you don't have time for beach? No, I cannot swim because I was full of work,
People think it's very glamorous to travel the world, but it's work. It's hard work.
It's hard because people want that if you come to my country 5 days, I'm going to try that you make a lot of visits, museums, restaurants, film here, film there, come on, and hey, stop, let me enjoy the moment, because when I come back to my city, Barcelona, I have to explain the experience. I cannot say, oh, it was all day, visiting, no. Sometimes when you sit in a square, for example, and you take 10 minutes for relax, see the people, the life in front of you, it's nice. And it's very important to feel the vibrations and the character of this country or the city. My travels in the United States, for example, in New Orleans, Las Vegas, every city, every place have something special and have different energy. And if you take time for discover, it's nice.
That's one thing I wanted to ask you, because you've been all over the place. I mean, there's the famous places like Normandy Beach, the Great Wall of China, the United Nations, the pyramids, Taj Mahal, all these incredible postcard places, right? But is there a place that's not so famous that really, really made an impression on you?
Cuenca in Spain is a very little city, not very famous here in Catalonia, for example. Of course, if you have only one moment in the year for travel, for one holiday, you are going to visit Venezia, Roma, Paris, London, of course. But I think when you do this kind of travels, usually you come back saying, oh, I was proud of people, very long lines for access to the museum, oh, very tired all day making lines for the bus. And sometimes if you choose other places, second or third in the list, probably you will enjoy it more and come back home with other energy and other feelings.
So Cuenca, for example, is a place that...
Cuenca, for example, Cuenca. I think is not very famous here in Barcelona, Catalonia. The rest of Spain, more or less, they know the city, but Cuenca is UNESCO heritage, and people don't know that they have in Spain this very beautiful little city full of charm.
Well, it's nice that you can give people a window on the world who maybe don't travel or don't know where to go, because besides showing off these beautiful places, you also interview people, right? Famous people, normal people, musicians. So for you, what makes a good story or what makes a good interview? Of course, now I'm interviewing you, so that's kind of a dangerous question to ask. But what's the most important thing when you're trying to tell a story?
When I prepare my interviews, the most important is that the person you have to question feel that he or she is the most important people in the room. Okay? Because now, usually journalists are the VIP of the show, you know. The guests is important because it's, for example, a Hollywood star, but I'm the number one in the show, you know. And this kind of journalist, for me, is a show. It's not interview. It's entertainment. They are joking, playing, singing. It's funny. It's a funny moment, but it's not an interview. This kind of shows not take time for discover the artist. It's very fun, but what about your work, your new song or your new film? It's not important. And I think when I prepare my interviews, I prefer make a list of questions more or less, but I'm not the number one of the show. My guess is I'm honored to enjoy 10 minutes, 15 minutes with this artist or writer or who knows.
So you're a real journalist. That's good. That's important, I think, to mention, because with all of the TikTok people and influencers and things like this, the influencer becomes the star of the show, and then the background, Paris, Barcelona, Istanbul, wherever they are, is like the secondary element. But then there's a big difference between that and the trips you take for Barcelonautes, for example. I don't think a lot of people understand the amount of work that goes into putting together a real interview or a real showcase for a city. If there's a person who's a young person who wants to be like you, who wants to be a journalist...
Young people, when they travel, they are only thinking in the selfie moment, dressed very beautiful. Take the picture like this, like this, like this. But what about the city? What can you explain me about the city or about the cathedral culture? I think it's important that the old people like me who are in media, in TikTok, in Instagram, do this task of prepare short videos with at least some information. I think it's beautiful. If I travel, for example, to Vietnam, that you learn something with my video. Not only see me enjoying and taking a pose. I prefer the videos or the information to make me grow.
New technology is basically what makes this possible. Mobile phones where you can take your selfie and stuff. That's what makes it possible for people to become influencers, TikTokers, whatever. In your case, you first started with Barcelonautes 25 years ago. The world has changed. Technology has changed. Has the way that you work changed? Has technology been helpful to you as it's evolved?
The technology is changing. For professionals like us, like journalists, it's a moment of think what our job could be in the future. Because all day, all people is making interviews, but people who are not artists, who are not person who have some relation with the media. And then I think if you are, for example, a teacher, well, teacher more or less have to talk to other people, no? Have to explain something. But some people who are not journalists, they decide to start a channel for make interviews. But you, when you were young, you decide to be a journalist for make interviews? No. Why now are you making interviews? Like you and me now making this conversation. It's interesting. You have a profession. I have a job. We are two different professionals from different areas talking about something. But sometimes now it's very usual, the makeup tutorials. But I think this is journalism, no? This is entertainment. This is information. What is this? This is the real question. What is the future of this profession? People say you don't have to stay 5 years in the university to be journalist because all people today can interview. Yeah, but what about the fake news? What about a lot of questions that journalists learn in the university?
The issue of fake news and misinformation is a huge problem, and media literacy, like understanding the difference between fake news and not, and the concept of objective journalism, of presenting the truth or presenting a perspective objective, but making it very clear. It's your opinion, it's perspective. So what did you learn at the university, for example, or what have you learned since that is really important that you wouldn't have learned had you just
For
started?
example, first you have to learn in the university is that you have to check all the information you are going to give the people who follow you. For example, if today people here in Spain saying, this actress died today, I say, okay, I'm going to check in 2 or 3, 5 important newspapers from Spain. If all these newspapers say that that actress is dead, now, then I decide, okay, the information is good. But sometimes you see in TikTok a lot of information. No, the real journalists, they don't say this, but this is the reality. I'm going to explain you. You, who are you? People say that journalists who work in a very important channel, TV channel, for example, or very important newspaper, people say that journalists, we are in Spain, say los malos de la película, no?
Bad guys in the film. Yeah.
Journalists, no, I'm going to give you the truth here in my TikTok because journalists are not good people. They work for media and for politics.
Right.
We are people who have to work, who have to pay every month, pay the rent. We have to, and we are working in a job and trying to do the best all can do. But sometimes people say that in Instagram, in TikTok, they are going to know the real information. Journalists have to give information and check if it's true, try to do the most exact information, a checklist, for example. Right?
I live in Spain also, so I hear this. People say, oh, the journalism isn't objective, they're all very political. But also outside of Spain, in the United States, for example, people trust the mainstream media less and less and less. Do you feel like in your experience, most of the journalists that you work with are objective, are presenting the truth the best that they can?
Yeah, I think the United States is very clear. If you are filling this TV channel or this other one, you are in synchrony with some politic ideas. But here we have more than 2 different options in politics. There's a lot of channels, and sometimes people don't understand that there are private channels and the channels of the government, and it's different.
The way the news is presented is different in the private news channels versus the government-run news.
Private channels is like a business, like a theater who decides we are going to show the Tory concert and not this other one because I am the owner and I decide to give this concert with Tory Sparks and not the other one. The TV channels are the same. I am the owner, I have my sponsors, and I decide who appears in which way, a private business. But if it's a channel, we say cadenas del Estado, no?
State-run media, yeah.
These ones have to do more objective work and give a more objective information, but that's not true. You know, when you have people from these political ideas, they try to use the television for send some messages, and journalists try to do the best way they can do, try to send the correct information.
So in the end, maybe the problem...
This politics is not journalist, not journalist.
Right, so the problem is the politicians, not the journalists. Exactly. On Barcelonautes, for example, this is a private show, right, on a private channel. So how do you decide who you want to interview and what kind of stories you want to tell?
For me, it's important that the person or the artist have a very professional and serious work. Not, I have 15 millions of followers. Okay, but that's not important. What about your career? Can you show who are you? And then people from here, from the city, that usually not appears in the big media shows for all Spain or for all people here in Catalonia, choose some artists, some writers. There's a lot of people very, very interesting here in the city with projects of music, of art, of a book, for example, and they don't have the opportunity to explain. These very interesting people needs 10 minutes, 15 minutes in television, 15 minutes for explain you my idea, my new project. It's a lot of time, but I give this time for listen, for learn, enjoy together. This is the idea. Sometimes I make interviews to the most important writers, musicians, actors, but sometimes very good career or very interesting project that don't appear in the big video.
Personally, I think that's really important. Obviously, I'm also a bit biased because that's me, but I feel like that's really important because the perspective that people have...
Very important for me, for my show. When Tori say me, hey, I have a new project, okay, come to explain me, please.
But that means a lot because, as you said, there's many people who are working, but we're not maybe on the front page of the newspaper all the time. So it gives another perspective to the city.
And probably if you go to these big media shows, you will have only 3 minutes for explain something quickly. Come on. And in my TV program, my TV show, you will have 10, 15 minutes for explain.
That's why I feel like independent journalists are so important, especially because, as you said, there's a lot of misinformation with AI. You don't even know if what you're seeing is real. So is AI impacting your job at all?
A lot, because people now feel that with the new intelligence, will do all the work that makes a journalist, like in musicians. Now you could go inside this intelligence and prepare a jingle, for example, in 2 minutes. Is able to prepare, for example, a jingle, a book, a text, all you need. I think it will do a very important work in the future for make respect the creativity. I don't know if this machine will be like Leonardo da Vinci or like John Lennon.
A lot of people don't seem to know the difference. I have a friend who told me, look, most people don't understand what makes music good. If they hear it on the radio a lot, they think it's good, and that's it. So you can do a song with AI or not, and people don't care. And that was her perspective, but my perspective is if it's not done by a person, there's no soul behind it. So I guess we'll see what happens with that. But one thing that AI can't replace, at least I don't think so, is you also, besides your busy life with the journalist projects you have, you also do fitness coaching, don't you? At a gym? How do you have time to do all these things, first of all? And how do you fit that in with journalism and travel?
When I was 4 years old with my parents, we were seeing in television a film, Flying to Rio, with Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, an old film. And in this film, Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers were dancing with this beautiful dress. And I say, Mom, I will do this. And I start to study classical ballet and make all the conservatory for classical dance. And when I arrive at 18 more or less, I decide to finish, because you know that in this kind of preparations, you have only to do this. You got no time for enjoy, for disco, for boyfriend, for nothing. And I decide, okay, I cannot continue with this. My mental stability is arriving to here. I have to change. And I decide I'm not going to continue dancing because it's this crazy. And I decide, okay, I'm not going to dance. And I appears the radio. You know, I explained when I arrived to high school, the radio. But inside of me, I continue dancing, feeling emotion with art, and decide to study, but only for joy, not for a job. I'm going to study cycling, the cycling sessions. It's like dancing, no? But in a cycle. Okay, I want to be a teacher of this. And I study, prepare, but this was only for joy. But when I finish all my lessons, my preparation, I said, okay, it's nice. Probably I could do only for 1-2 hours on the week. And then I say, Pilates. Pilates is very interesting. I do from 4 years, for 18, I have been making classical ballet. Okay, Pilates for me is very easy. Yoga for me is very easy. And then start the other way, or the second part of my life in fitness area, studying, preparing, and I have been the last 16 or 17 years in a gym here in Barcelona, like a teacher.
Do you ever have people come into your classes in the gym and say, you're the lady from the television?
People say, you are a TV presenter? No, you are my Zumba teacher. No, Zumba teacher. But I'm the person you see when you zapping on TV. When I stay with journalists, they say, you are a gym teacher. And when I am with the people of the gym, they say, you are a journalist.
It's cool to be able to combine the things you love together.
Yeah. I think if you think a moment, two different areas, at the end, is artistic, is expression, is contact with the people, communication.
Yeah.
Because when you are in a lesson of Pilates or in a Zumba, you connect with the people. Mm-hmm. Like you in the stage, no? I connect with the people.
Yeah, in the end, it's all about connecting with people and communicating something, right? This was great. So thank you.
Thank you very much. You have been very good interviewer to me.
Thank you so much, Alicia, for hanging out with me today on the Metropolitan Culture Corner, especially because the taping of this interview was done in August, when most people in Spain are like, nope, I'm not doing anything until September. But Alicia said, yeah, sure, let's go ahead, let's do it. She is a true professional. And her positivity and her let's go attitude and her curiosity about the world, these are the things that's made her such a force to reckon with in the world of journalism, and it's a reason why she's been able to maintain a program like Barcelonautes for 25 years, which I know she doesn't look old enough to have had a program for 25 years. But these days, when people's attention span is shorter than ever, she's one of those that has stayed on top thanks to her hard work and her energy. Her enthusiasm is boundless and she is always on the move, so I encourage you to look her up. Thank you again, Alicia. Thanks to all of you for watching. And I'm sorry that I've gotten more and more kind of orange as the interview has progressed. The sun is going down, but look, makes you feel like you're in the room with us, right? Thank you for supporting local arts and culture here on the Metropolitan Culture Corner. Thank you again, Alicia Escribano, and see you next month, same time, same YouTube channel.